short, very quick. But this one's going to be a little longer, because in this one I want to share a little bit about my background and my experience with grief. It actually started when I was in my 20s. My very best friend, who was kind of my opposite, he was like a living reincarnation of John Belushi. We had just celebrated dinner together down in Washington, D.C. with some friends. We were going home for Christmas, and I was home the next day working at my brother's house. I got a call, and it was that my friend John had died in his sleep the night before. What I didn't know is that John had an undiagnosed rare heart condition that would eventually take not just John, but all three of that family's kids died before the age of 30. Losing John was life-changing for me. I mean, it sounds silly, but it cracked me to my core. And it was my first real experience of grief, and that sudden loss of here was this person who was the personification of everything that life should be, right? Here one day, gone the next. I came out of that with feeling like a solemn responsibility to honor John, and in retrospect, I think I went overboard on it. I think my efforts to kind of keep him alive was my own way of not wanting to confront the grief. So it had me doing things like working, 6 days a week, and then flying up to Boston from Washington, D.C. to have dinner with his parents, then flying back out that night. I did a lot of stuff like that. Again, was it the worst thing in the world? No, but it really did burn me out. And I probably could have given them a little bit of a break, because seeing me meant that they had to confront the grief. And then fast forward from that, over a handful of years, in the early 2000s, I experienced the death of my only grandparent, my grandmother, Nana, then my father, then my wife to a rare form of cancer, and then my mother died on the same date that my wife died, which was my daughter's 3rd birthday. And I remember making an awkward joke, because that's what we do in our family. It's one of the ways we deal with grief. And I turned to my sister at the time and I said, well, I guess the next one's one of us, because there's nobody left. Then in the following August, my niece fell off a swing, and I was with my brother and my sister and my sister-in-law the night that she died, in a room in New Haven, Connecticut, at Yale New Haven Hospital. Watching her take her last breaths was a moment that seared my soul and put me deep into therapy for years, but also had me questioning the meaning of existence. And feeling that guilt of like, well, how can I be grieving when my brother and my sister-in-law have to be dealing with this infinitely more than me? But to watch a child die it's just so disassociative. It's just something that shouldn't happen. And I got deep into Buddhism at the time to try to understand the nature of suffering. And around the same time, decided that I was going to spend the rest of my life giving back, because one of the things that happened now that I experienced, and I know me telling you this is kind of like giving a laundry list. It's like, I sometimes feel like when I share this stuff, it's like, well, I got eggs, and I got, because that's what happens in my grief world is I have to share these things, but underlying that is this deep reservoir, I guess, of it used to be anger, but I refuse to be a victim of anything. And so what I did is, when I feel that, I say, I'm not going to allow this to fucking define who I am. And I want to honor everybody. I want to be known for what I love, not what I lost. And so it's kind of that mentality of, okay, you're going to hit me on this cheek, or I'm going to give you this one, because you want to take another shot, because I'm not going down. And so from that moment on, I decided I was going to give back and kind of pay it forward. But the other thing is, there really wasn't anybody around us that could help. I got sent to this one place for therapy, a grief center, And I had one visit with this person, and when I walked out, she's like, "You seem to be doing fine. I don't think you need to come back." And I remember walking out the door saying, like, "Fuck you." I seemed fine because I wasn't falling apart there. But that's because I was trying to hold it together for my kids, for my brother, for my family. But I needed help in a way to process this. And so I decided in that moment what I needed most was somebody just to tell me things, like what I was experiencing, to validate these things. I needed information. And that really forms the origin story of Empower Change. Is we're not therapists. We don't pretend to be therapists. What we are is people with lived experience with grief that just want to be able to share our information so people can get it, no matter how raw it is. It's real, it's raw, it's always honest. And then the second piece of this, coming out of this, is, grief is a moment. Grieving is a process, and it's something we all have to go through alone, but it doesn't mean that you have to do it alone. There are people like us who can help guide you, and there is a community. Like, what I would have loved at that time is to meet somebody else that had experienced grief. And it's hard being a widowed single dad and just getting through a day. Going out to like a support group, for me, fucking impossible. So for us to be able to build a community where we can connect online and meet others like us and share stories and know we aren't alone, like, if we could just do those two things, I think we can make a big headway. So that's my origin story, but that's also the origin story of Empower Change. And at the end of the day, what we really want is we want people to know that we're all in this together, right? That we want people to feel empowered, be able to get the information they need, and to be able to join a community where they can find hope and healing and love again.